It is India's biggest reality show, or may I call it reality show. The Smart City Challenge reached its logical conclusion today. Urban Development Minister Venkaiah Naidu released the list of the top 20 smart cities. Dark horse Bhubaneswar from Orissa led that list. Close behind was Pune and Jaipur. Venkaiah Naidu called the project the world's largest urban renewal project and said that 3 lakh crore rupees has been set aside for the smart city mission. We have a wonderful lineup of guests tonight. Our narrator Faye D'Souza joins us live all the way from Bengaluru studios to help us decode today's developments. Faye, over to you.
Thank you so much, Krishna. It has been a big day for those of us who are enthusiastic about the Indian real estate sector and urban development. This is going to mean massive changes for the 20 cities on the list. Joining me on the show this evening, Gitambar Anand of ATS Group, Niranjan Hiranandani, co-founder of the Hiranandani Group, Sangeeta Prasad, CEO of Integrated Cities and Industrial Clusters at Mahindra Life Spaces, and Kunal Kumar is the Pune Municipal Commissioner, joins us on the show as well. Big day for Kunal. His Pune Smart City project coming in at number 2 across the country. Kunal, I'm going to start with you. Congratulations, first of all. We at Magic Tricks now have been tracking your project and your entire application, and we know how hard the local government in Pune have worked. Tell us what happens. I mean, after tonight's celebration, what happens after this? What are the next steps for Pune going forward?
Yeah, first of all, I would like to thank all my Pune citizens for making this possible. It would have not been possible because of, the kind of relentless people's participation we got in Pune and the kind of effort everybody made. That's made it possible. We've seen a dream for Pune. Now is the time to realize the dream. I think the next 5 years will show where we stand after we've seen this dream, and I feel implementation is the key. So today is just the beginning. I think next 5 years we have to work relentlessly to make Pune a smart city.
What I heard was that Kunal, give me details for people who are watching right now who are wondering what this is going to mean for the city of Pune in specific. Tell me what problems you're targeting right up front. What's on the top of the list for you when you talk about making Pune smart?
Yeah, so essentially, number 1 is our traffic and transport issue. Number 2 is our water issue. We're looking forward to solve our solid waste management issues, housing issues, sewage and rainwater, the stormwater drainage issues. Essentially, those issues which probably all big cities in the country face. Then we are looking at creating model areas which can be replicated across the city. So, not very different issues from other cities, in fact. But our solutions have to be innovative, our solutions have to be smart, Pune specific, and have to be achieved in a time period which is relatively less, so that we are able to achieve our goals earlier. So I think we are at it, we have plans, and I think we will be able to execute in the next 5 years.
What kind of money is Pune going to need in order to execute this very, very complicated smart city plan that you've drawn up?
Yeah, so I think 3,000 crores comes within the smart cities ambit. After the 3,000 crores, in fact, the entire infrastructure investment which is required in Pune is close to be 30,000 crores. So over the next 5 years, we're looking at something like $5 to $6 billion of investment into Pune's infrastructure, which is going to come through the smart cities mission and through other programs. And I think that is going to be possible. 1/3 of that is going to come through PNC's own coffers. 1/3 is going to come through the government and its various grants and programs, and 1/3 is going to come from loans, PPPs, and CSR and other initiatives. So we have drawn 5-year plans of close to 30,000 crores of investment into Pune.
Well, I want to bring in Niranjan Hiranandani. Mr. Hiranandani, obviously, Pune is a city of interest for you from the point of view of real estate, from both development and investment, and normal consumers looking to buy and live in a city. How much of a difference does the Smart City project make to the city of Pune going forward, coming in number 2 nationally at this point?
I think it's a wonderful thing that finally the government has decided that it's the urban areas which is going to cause the quality of life of India to improve and the GDP to improve, and hence investment in cities is a smart move on behalf of the government. So I think Pune is a good beneficiary because it's got a lot of land around the peripheral areas. It's got a basic industrial, commercial, as well as an enterprising situation and a good residential climate. I think a combination
combination of this with all the infrastructure that we are talking about is going to really make a world of difference in terms of quality of life and also the growth of GDP in this city. I think that's the most important thing which will add on to the city's future. So I think quality of life, great GDP improvement and earning capacity of the city will definitely go up.
Mr. Hiranandani, we have the Pune Municipal Commissioner on the show live right now. If you were to prioritize something about the city that you'd like him to take a look at first, what would that be?
I think basically the transportation and communications is going to be the most important thing because it's got a lot of land in the peripheral areas which can actually improve the quality of life of people. So if you can improve transportation across the cities, I think that would be a number one factor which will actually improve the quality of life of the city because the transport from one end of the city to the other is just now quite onerous many times, especially during the difficult times of the day. But all that he has mentioned earlier is really a part and parcel of that. You can't remove water requirement from this, you can't remove the waste, solid waste management. But I think if he focuses on making a start with a good quality transportation and mass transportation program, I think that would actually precipitate a larger amount of investment into Pune and it would be seeable and feelable immediately.
Well, Kunal, you've heard that voice, the fact that transportation is top of mind. I also want to very quickly ask you about land records and the fact that IT is going to be a large portion of this plan. And I want to understand and extrapolate what the rest of the city is also going to look at. One of the biggest problems from the industry's point of view has been digitizing land records and digitizing development plans. So we as investors or as consumers or as developers can go online and look at the city's plan and understand what the titles are available for a certain piece of land, whether it's residential, whether it's commercial, what can be done on that piece of land. Is that part of your plan in Pune at least?
Well, I mean, Mr. Hiranandani talked about transport, so I'd start from that. In fact, Urban Transport Fund has been mooted as part of the PMC budget itself, and a major chunk of our smart city investment is going to happen into transport. So yes, we realize transport is one issue in Pune, and we need to sort that out first before we look at other sectors. While we also look at other sectors, this is number one priority for us at least. So that is number one. Number two is, as you talk about, I mean, land records is of course one of the most critical areas. There are some policy initiatives which are required there, which probably the state government will have to make. I think we have plans for that, but it will take a long time period to just really execute. But yes, that's on our agenda at the moment. Yes.
Gitamba, I'm going to bring you in here. When you're looking, as a spokesperson for the real estate industry, obviously the Smart City project is a massive game changer, at least in the 20 cities that we're looking at right now. What do you find most exciting about this project? When we look at the cities that are being listed, the fact that Delhi and Pune, in my opinion, the two big cities being listed, will actually make them very, very attractive from an investment point of view. How are you viewing this announcement?
This is a very, very intelligent move by the government. It's a very intelligent effort because understand this, what they've done is across the country, east, west, north, south and central India, they've created these hubs of development where they will be investing money. So like Kunal said, the actual outlay is 37,000 crores. So once this kind of money is spent on all these locations, similar amounts of money is spent in these locations, what will improve is the transportation and of course, the general quality of life in these cities and around these cities will improve. So like you have in the West, what will now happen is that people will work in these cities but live outside these cities, because when transportation and the road network becomes more effective, public transport becomes more aggressive and effective, then you'll have a lot of people living outside the city and traveling to the city to work every day, like you have maybe in London or maybe in the West or in Europe. So what this will translate into is cheaper real estate or housing for people. and probably in greenfield areas outside or satellite areas of these cities, and the workplaces will be located within the city. Because understand this, these are brownfield projects. There's no land available in these cities per se. So by default, the land around these cities, which of course falls in the master plan, and now aggressive master planning will have to be undertaken by all these areas, so that they can actually identify zones which are residential zones, and of course some retail zones and commercial zones around these cities, so that these can be developed as greenfield areas into new smart cities. I'm not disappointed. See, you have to look at the nation as a whole. This whole effort is actually going to trigger the entire economy. So much money being poured, so many jobs being created across the country. There will be a very positive mood across the nation once this money comes in and this work starts. So you should not be so short-sighted just to look at your location. I think we have to look at it as in a very, very wholesome, holistic way. And for the entire nation, I think it's great news. It's going to create a lot of jobs, lot of opportunities, lot of manufacturing is going to be really triggered by this, because you're going to require a lot of material for infrastructure development. So it's great news, and I'm looking at a very bright future here for all of us.
Niranjan Hiranandani, no Mumbai, no Thane, no Kalyan, Dombivli. A bit of a miss there.
Of course, we miss it. We miss it terribly. I thought at least some of these areas would be covered by these programs. But however, I think the Chief Minister of Maharashtra has already done a large number of programs that he has initiated in the Mumbai region. For instance, is the Cross Harbour Bridge, the Sion Panvel Freeway, the Navi Mumbai Airport, the Coastal Road, the metros in the cities, and the Pinjal River project. These 5 projects are being taken off, and the Ro-Ro boating going to Mandwa and Navi Mumbai is also been initiative in the next 3 years. So irrespective of what we are talking about, the funding to come from the central government, Mr. Devendra Fadnavis has already initiated a large number of infrastructure projects for the Mumbai region, which is more than 1 lakh crores of rupees, which is in the next 5 years. So I think of course we miss it that the central government has not chosen any of these areas for the purposes of investment and infrastructure, because I do believe there is a huge opportunity. But there is one more thing I wanted to add to what Mr. Anand said, because he said lots of wonderful things, that as far as Mumbai, Maharashtra is concerned, we are looking at mixed-use townships around the periphery of Mumbai, because we are looking more to walk to work, and each of the segment areas, whether they are Navi Mumbai or it is Panvel or it is Kalyan Karjat or other areas, we are looking at mixed-use township where economic drivers like tourism, like IT, like manufacturing will be bundled along with residential and other complexes, so that the commute time of people are going to come down, but of course the metros and other things are also being added. So there is a slight difference between the style which is followed in the NCR, where all the peripheral areas are looking at residential and commercial at centers of town. But in the Mumbai region, I think Mr. Fadnavis has got better, different ideas in terms of creating mixed-use townships in the peripheral of Mumbai. And Thane, of course.
Well, Mr. Hiranandani, very quick question. I'm going to make you choose between your babies. I know that Powai and Thane are your favorites right now, but of the other cities that you're looking at Chennai, you're looking at Pune, and you're looking at Alibaug, and plenty of other cities you're currently holding land that you're going to develop. Does this new plan now put Pune and Chennai on the top of your list? Is it going to receive more attention from you?
Pune is definitely looking at as a big location that we are studied and we are already focused on, and we think that the economic driver for Pune is very, very strong, and I think this looking at it as a new city identified by the central government will probably give it a next Phillips. So yes, Pune is definitely due. We are looking at Ahmedabad too.
Kunal, since you are still with us, Kunal, very quick question. The last time we talked, you talked about the rapid transport, the BRTS program in Pune that you were going to revise. And you said at that point, which was over 6 months ago, that it would take about 3 or 4 months to revive it. Give us a status on the BRTS program and any of the other road transportation programs that you're looking at in Pune right now.
So in Pune, we have pretty much adopted the adage, which says clearly that a developed country is not where poor have cars, but rich travel by public transport. So we've essentially moved towards kind of a paradigm shift towards public transport and infrastructure related for public transport rather than going for more roads and more flyovers. So in fact, as I said to you about 6 months back, now we have launched our BRTS network. The first line has started. There is a double increase in the amount of commuters in that area. There's a 6% modal shift from people who use private transport towards now public transport. We have budgeted for 30 kilometers of BRTS network for this year in the PMC budget, and in the next 2 years we're going to scale it up to 75 kilometers. So that's one part of it. The second is the Pune Metro is going to start this year, so that's another big investment which is going to happen for the next 5 years. And we are now focusing on creating more pedestrian walkways, more cycling networks. We have gone in with IIT Delhi and a company called iTrans, which is actually incubated at IIT Delhi, which is preparing a complete public bicycle sharing and a cycle infrastructure plan for the Pune city, which will actually scale up for the entire city in the next 3 to 5 years. So we're looking at sustainable modes of transport. We have a sustainable transport cell in the corporation now, and we are trying to move towards we're trying to move towards a paradigm shift towards public transport and sustainable transport in the future. So we have actually...
all of that is very heartening to hear, but in the meantime, there are people on two-wheelers in Pune who are hurting themselves on a daily basis because the roads are bad. Is that being looked at on an immediate sort of priority basis?
Yes, that is a priority, but let me be very frank with you, these solutions are not going to happen overnight. They're probably not going to happen over a year. But yes, sustained efforts over a 3 to 5 year period are definitely going to bear fruits for us. So let us be patient. We're not going to change our cities overnight. Smart cities, today's discussion is around the 20 cities which have been selected. Of course, these are cities which have been selected to be made smart. They're not already smart. This journey is going to last for maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years, maybe 15 years. Let's be patient. Let's focus on the program that we have at hand. Let's take those tough decisions which are going to be taken, and I think over the next 5 years we'll be able to transform our city.
Give us an example of the tough decisions that you're going to take.
For example, parking. Today parking is one of the free things. Parking on the roads is almost like free real estate for people. We need to have a strong policy for parking. We need to have economic pricing of parking. We need to see that parking is priced at a point where people find it, it's convenient for people, but it's difficult to park only because you just want to park your car. So that's one decision. Then we need to take decisions where we need to prioritize our budgets. That's a tough decision because you want roads. People want roads, but I don't want to spend money on roads. So one tough decision you have to take is no more roads. You have to spend more money on public transport. These are some of the examples of the tough decisions that you need to make.
Alright, I want to bring in Sangeeta Prasad here. Sangeeta, when you're looking at the plans that we're talking about at this point, given your position of studying integrated cities, is there anything you'd like to add to what we've talked about in terms of what you believe a smart city should have? And the other thing I want you to focus on is the city of Chennai. Coming out of that devastating flood, Chennai is still making the list of top 20 cities in the country. I think is heartening, and I think the local management of Chennai deserves all our congratulations at this point for managing to make it to that list. Tell us what this will mean for Chennai going forward, because we know that in terms of urban planning, Chennai needs and deserves a lot of attention at this point.
First of all, congratulations to Pune. It's heartening to be part of the panel where Pune is present. I will just focus on what we do as a city creator and what have we learned. One of the key constituents of a good city is the citizen, to understand the citizen's requirement, and we have felt in our journey of creating livelihood, living in life, which is essentially one of the key movers in a city, as someone told earlier, is creation of jobs. So with all this happening with the pan city development and the greenfield and retrofitting, whatever each city has chosen as their priority, I am very, very encouraged that jobs will be created. Once jobs are created, you have purchasing power, and living in life then kind of engulf into this whole ecosystem creation. And that's what I believe in a city, and our experience has shown works very well. So understand the citizen, create competitiveness for the citizens as well as for the cities, create jobs, and then have a flourishing life for its citizens, because they are the cornerstone of a city. What else? It is about planning and not manufacturing. Planning a city which is evolving and flexible. Transportation, very important. Waste management, very important. Sanitation and health, very important. And I'll take this example of the Chennai recent floods. Mahindra City, Chennai was also, experiencing the floods, but what happened was, key planning into the drainage, the stormwater drains, the channelizing of water into the right large water bodies has been a differentiator in our city. So we could come back to normal much earlier and faster because of the planning and the vision of a city which can plan itself for future, plan itself for different kinds of situations. And I am really pleased that Chennai is a part of this top 20 as well as Jaipur, because we are present, as you know, both in Chennai and Jaipur. And what I see, the network and the symbiotic effect of the government smart city initiative and private endeavor like ours will bring in what we were talking, bright future for our citizens in our country.
Alright, let's talk investments at this point. We have a fantastic panel with us this evening, and I'm going to open up the phone lines for our viewers. There is a live phone number at the bottom of your screen. Pick up the phone and call us and ask us anything you want to know about making an investment in real estate right now. Given that we finally know the list of those 20 cities, Gitambar Anand, come in here. Tell me if you're going to, is this list now going to make you look outside of the NCR region? Will you consider building, in other cities? Maybe this, top 20 list works as a short list for you?
See, Faye, we are already present outside the NCR, so we are already working in Chandigarh. We have a huge township there, plus in Punjab, close to Ludhiana, we already have a project over there. We have a project in Dehradun. We are present in Goa. So it's not, this thing will not, it's not a knee-jerk reaction. I liked what Kunal said. It's not going to, things will not start happening overnight. So it's not something that will change my business decision right away. Okay, this has happened, so let's start looking for something over there. It's always better to work in a very controlled manner where you can deliver, because today the biggest challenge for the developers is to execute and deliver on time. So just going and buying land in new places is, I would say immediately, it's not a very wise reaction. Having said that, yes, as we go along, maybe in the next 4 to 5 years, businesses expand. We also have expansion plans. We will look at new locations, new destinations where there are, drivers in that particular area for people to actually come there for jobs and work there. Those are good areas to invest in, where you will be able to sell housing. So it's something which we'll, consider, but not immediately, and it won't really make, we won't make any hasty decisions. Like I said, we are already aggressively present in the north of the country, and we'll continue doing
I was a little surprised, of course, as were several others about Chandigarh not making the list, but Ludhiana has. Would you believe going forward, people who make investments in real estate will be looking at Ludhiana from a more land point of view, or do you think the township gated community route is the route that Ludhiana is going to take going forward as purely real estate investment?
Yes, of course, gated communities and townships, there are already a lot of such projects happening in and around Ludhiana, but understand this, that the distance between Ludhiana and Chandigarh is just about an hour by road today, whereas there's not even a decent highway, it's just a single road. So as infrastructure builds up, over a period of time, and Ludhiana and Chandigarh won't be more than 45 minutes away. So if Ludhiana is been declared a smart city, it's going to be very, very easy for people to actually, that thing to spread across towards Chandigarh also, and of course towards Jalandhar and to other satellite towns. So like I said in the beginning, one core is being developed by this announcement. as a smart city, and in around the periphery of this core you will see a lot of development, greenfield development, and cities which are in the vicinity of these smart cities will also benefit from this announcement.
Hidamma, also tell us, in terms of Delhi, Delhi has some challenges right now in terms of traffic. The traffic that moves through the heart of Delhi takes a really long time. That needs decongestion. The metro project is doing quite well. But in terms of Delhi being a smarter city than it already is, what sort of changes would you like to see right up front if you were talking to the committee that's looking at the city of Delhi right now? What are the biggest challenges that Delhi is facing, and what would improve its investment, its investment profile and its investment climate?
See, the problem you pointed out about traffic moving through Delhi has already been addressed, and we have the KMP, which is actually going to be having allowed traffic to move outside Delhi when it's coming from Rajasthan side towards UP. So very soon, maybe in a year and a half, you will not have the trucks moving through Delhi. For me, Faye, the biggest challenge today is, like Sangeeta very rightly put it, and she hinted at it also. The people of our, all of us, we need to be taught how to use this infrastructure. So in Delhi and in Noida, you've got these 6-lane roads, and there are still traffic jams on these roads because there's no discipline in driving. So you have a metro, and getting into that metro and getting out of that metro is a challenge, because basically how we use the existing infrastructure is not exactly how one would like to have it, like to see it being used. So the biggest challenge, according to me, is to educate ourselves and all our people how to use this new infrastructure which will be coming up. So unless and until we don't know how to use it, it's of no use. You can have an 8-lane road and still have traffic jams if people are going to be driving in a very indisciplined fashion. So there has to be a concerted effort. I feel, there has to be some way to reach out to all citizens to teach them how to use this new infrastructure so that it can be effectively used. So I don't know if anybody is thinking on those lines. I for one was thinking, why don't we start a movement here where we go to these offices, the BPOs in and around the NCR, where drivers are there the whole day, and we can actually set up a video film to show them how you are supposed to drive on a 6-lane road, how they do it in the West, and people don't ever use a horn in the cars. So if we can reach that stage of discipline for using infrastructure, only then will we see a better quality of life in these cities.
That's a great suggestion. Let me take it to Kunal. Kunal, is that a suggestion that local government can put into place, where it's not just about building the infrastructure, which could be fantastic, it is about educating average citizens on how that infrastructure should be used?
Yeah, so this is a kind of a full circle in itself. Unless you build an infrastructure which is actually demanded by people, actually it's according to the people's needs, people really don't feel ownership of that infrastructure. So this is where the foundation of the smart city lies, wherein people decide what the city wants. And once the people decide what the city wants, whether it is a road infrastructure, whether it's a water supply infrastructure, then they take ownership of that. And we all have, a lot of, for me, citizen engagement in Pune has been a really humbling experience. We all have this kind of a thought that we know we're the best knowers of things, but actually it's been a very humbling experience. A lot of brilliant ideas or ways in which we can do real good things in the city has come from the citizens. So I think, yes, we need to educate citizens. At the same time, we need to educate ourselves from the citizens also. And we need to recognize the fact that the next generation is going to still change the city. So we need to also connect with the students, with the young generation, with the children. And I think time is very ripe for that to happen. And Pune is probably going to set in a good
Tell me how you plan to sustain this citizen interaction. I know you had a contest, you had people send in ideas when you were making your plan, but going forward, how do you plan to keep these citizens engaged?
Well, we are looking at setting up a vision community for Pune. In fact, citizen engagement is a very generic word. So we will now actually look at setting up a vision community where everyone can participate, where ideas can be actually brought in and innovations can be taken to market. So we're also looking at setting up a urban innovation kind of a hub in Pune, wherein people who come up with ideas will actually come and be presenting their ideas before a good world-class advisory council, and then therefore whichever are the best ideas which come out of that will actually be able to be nurtured and taken to the market through an accelerator which will be put in place. That is one part of it. The second part is to have a vision community in place wherein you have the best and every section of the society getting represented, and they are able to contribute towards the city's vision and its implementation in the future. There's a long way to go. We are all kind of evolving with this program. And I think let us step back and acknowledge today that it's the citizens which have made this possible, and let us take this into the future with that pride and with that important point in our minds, and let us frame our structures in a way that we ignore citizens in the future.
I know this is something that both Niranjan Hiranandani and Geetambaranan feel very strongly about. Now, the smart city requirement also requires governments to now use IT to simplify all interactions with citizens. I want to know, Niranjan Hiranandani, if you think it would make a world of a difference if things like registration of property, if things like stamp duty, if things like permissions handed out for construction become part of this process of simplifying it, making it online, making single window processes, speeding up process across at least the 20 cities that we're talking about would make a huge difference, wouldn't it?
Of course it will. We've been very fortunate as far as Maharashtra is concerned. Mr. Devendra Fadnavis has led ease of doing business. We've had several meetings both at the institutional and various levels of CRIDAI, in Naredco and others, where we have discussed about the ease of doing business. The Municipal Commissioner of Mumbai has set up an entire manual to reduce the processes by 50% in terms of doing it. I think all this I'm putting in, and of course he has suggested and recommended and ordered that this should be all IT based, so that accountability of each officer giving the permission is going to be put as quickly as possible, and has mandated that as quickly as early as possible to be implemented. So I think this is the question of using IT is already thought of by the state government, and hopefully this gets accountability of each officer who holds the sanction of building plans, etc., is going to be speeded up, and he has assured that this will not only be made accountable but is being now put under statute. We have in Maharashtra the Right to Services Act, which is going to make a wonderful change, where he is going to give the time frame in which he is going to expect that the official dumb is going to give the sanction of plans and duty conscious to do it. So I think this idea of IT is already put into place. But I want to just go ahead a little more with what Mr. Kunal said, and I think it's wonderful the way he has put it across. But I think we need to be creating surpluses of infrastructure. We talk about creating surpluses in housing, we talk about creating surpluses of roads, but in terms of mass transport, I think after the British made the mass transport of the railways, including the suburban trains of Mumbai, we have forgotten that we need to create surpluses in terms of public transport if you want to attract and move people from roads and other things to go to public transport. So unless public transport is created as a surplus, it's not going to be possible for people to move from cars, from rickshaws, and from other private transport to public transport, because the ease of transport and movement is not going to be there. And I think public transport needs an emphasis far beyond that we can do, especially in order to control pollution of the cities like has happened in Delhi.
Sure. On that, when we bring in Geetambaranan, when we look at beautiful spaces that have been created in, say, Noida or Greater Noida, the fact that we need that surplus infrastructure to make people move out and into these spaces, travel into the city every day, which is the major challenge. None of our cities have managed to do it. We're all behind the curve when it comes to planning, mass rapid transport, and like Mr. Hiranandani was saying, it's true. We just don't do it in surplus in these cities. How important is it, at least for these 20 cities, to look at transportation in surplus?
See, it's a very valid concern, but if I speak for Noida, see the Delhi metro, the metro is expanding very aggressively over here, and Noida on its own is actually coming up. It's even looking at coming up with a tram network, so that locally you can move around in that tram. So the effort to create surplus infrastructure is already being thought of. There are limitations of capital for every city, for every state, but it will take time, because we also have a very huge population. We can't forget that. So what is surplus and when is it surplus? That is something which has to be really figured out. So let's get the infrastructure in place first, because if you look at the Delhi metro today, it's being used more. It's totally used to capacity, and they're going on adding more networks, more coaches. But still, that I don't know when the stage of surplus will come. But yes, alternate means of public transport also need to be thought about aggressively, so that we can actually look at accessing the suburbs and the peripheral areas of Delhi more conveniently without using our own vehicles. But like I said, there are limitations. There are limitations, the basic limitation being of capital. So it's one thing will lead to another. When we kickstart our GDP and we start going into a double-digit growth, incomes will increase and money will come in. So all that will happen in due course. But right now, the good news is that we are talking about big investments in these cities. That's very, very good news.
I think there is, I agree with Gitamba that there is a shortage of capital at this point of time, but looking at the future of expansion of cities and economic expansion and residential requirements, it is imperative to get the money for the purposes of mass transport, and there is no second thought about it. Because if you are going to talk about public transport in terms of roads and expansion of that, you're going to get pollution. So I think public transport is an answer. The British did it in Mumbai in the good old days. Mumbai, the Central Railway, the Western Railway, the Harbour Line. We had all those things which happened in terms of public transport. Then we forgot about how to increase that over a period of years, and hence we messed up by adding just roads and flyovers. But wherever we could have done mass transport in terms of metros and other things, it would have made a world of difference. If you can double, triple the capacity of metro in Delhi, in Mumbai, and the other towns, your quality of life and pollution will definitely improve. There is no other alternative. Money and capital is surplus all over the world, and I think we can get money at very low rates of interest at this point of time, and I don't think that's a problem. Though, Gitambar, I agree, in the short run maybe there's a shortage of capital. In the long run, I think there is no answer to that. We have to see that urban transport comes in. That's an imperative, and if any city thinks that they cannot afford the capital of it, I think the cities themselves will get so polluted that people will have to leave those cities. I think the imperative of mass transport, public transport, and the need for capital diversion into that line is, I think we need to reconfigure, and I think sufficient
the other thing we have to take
Delhi needs to double it, triple it, quadruple it.
The other thing we have to take cognizance of is job creation. It's come up a couple of times in this conversation, and I want to bring it to the forefront. I have this question for Sangeeta, but I want Gitambar Anand to respond to this as well. Niranjan said some time ago that in a lot of cities we're considering building townships outside in the suburbs for people to live in terms of residential, but we're not decongesting our CBDs. We're not bringing jobs to these neighborhoods where people can walk to work, where people can live close to where they work, so that they don't have to come into the cities. So we don't need such massive surplus of public transport where I can actually work and live in the same neighborhood. Do you think that should be top of mind as well? If, for example, we're talking about a neighborhood like, say, Greater Noida and all of the construction that's happening there, are there enough jobs being created in Greater Noida? That way, similarly for all of the other cities that we're talking about.
See, Faye, the thing is that if you look at IT per se, then yes, it's a very good idea, this walk to work, and but IT is not the only profession that people look at. There are factories where people work. There are banks where people work. So if you I keep referring to London because I think most of us know that example. So if you look at the city of London, there are so many jobs in the city of London itself that people from outside all over London come to London to work every day and then go back by the effective public transport system. So yes, wherever possible, there will be a walk to work concept outside these cities where there are townships, where there are SEZs and the like, but where there will still be a huge amount of our population which will still come to the city to work, because like I said, there are different kinds of jobs which are available in the city itself. It's not that the city will be empty of people and there will be nobody working over there. So this is a perfect scenario where everybody walks to work. It's not really possible in every case. Yes, what is possible is that the kids can walk to school, the ladies can walk to shopping, the hospitals are close by. So it's a great idea to have townships which are self-sufficient in social infrastructure. Fantastic. And walk to work wherever possible. We should have that situation, but these cities always will be drivers of jobs. You cannot ignore that. So like coming back to Greater Noida, there is
Sarita, 1 second. As two working women on this panel, I think we should frown at the idea of women walking to shopping, because we could walk to work as well, Mr. Anand. Sarita, tell me, when planning cities, how important is job creation? I mean, accept the point that IT is not, is not the only industry we focus on, but how important is it to also create jobs and to decongest CBDs within townships when we're looking at, when we're looking at planning our cities?
I totally agree that we shop and work both, that's what women are all about. So, but on a serious note, I just wanted to say, I wanted to respond to Gitamber that decongesting cities for livelihood is not just about IT. In fact, that's what we have tried to create. It's about manufacturing, it is about IT, it is about R&D. It's creating a microcosm of a city so that we can decongest from the nerve center of a city. So that's what the Mahindra World City we have tried to create. And if you create a mixed use work system, then you can attract people from different walks of life, different functions and different backgrounds to work together, and also focus on their living in life, which is essentially about good homes, good schools, good entertainment, as well as a soul in the city, which is about having programs and evenings and communities. What we have realized and learned that we need to do much more to get people together, to have systems so that the city does not become a ghost town but has a heart and soul. So not only IT, manufacturing is key to decongest our nerve centers of the current metros, and I feel heartened that in the current smart city program we do have the opportunity of a combination of retrofit, redevelopment as well as greenfield. So I believe that not only will the city core, and someone was mentioning this and I agree with him, that not only the cities which have been selected, but also the cities around, the network effect will be very, very important to ensure that the country which has judicially chosen, I thought that the cities have been chosen very, very cleverly. They are in all parts of the country. Not all of them are in the same maturity cycle. Some are very mature, some are less mature, and I think this wonderful combination is a heady mix for overall development of this country. So combination of mixed use, combination of good planning and citizens at the core is what will make these cities flourish.
Kunal, I want to bring you in on public spaces and giving cities a soul, and that's so important. And we know Pune has always had a cultural soul, but tell me, going forward, what plans do you have for public spaces, for creating spaces where people can come together as a community, after work, after school, in some cases after shopping?
Well, so every city is supposed to have a land use plan for the city. This is typically called a development plan in Maharashtra. I don't know what it's called in other cities outside the state of Maharashtra, but the land use plan is typically made in a very, very routine manner. But this year, thankfully, with the Smart Cities mission, we got to work on the on a kind of a development plan for the city of Pune, where we have incorporated concepts like transport-oriented development. We have incorporated plans wherein sustainable development is possible, riverfront development is possible. Pune, is blessed with a long stretch of river which is around 40 kilometers. So we can really have a very good public space which is 40 kilometers long from both sides of the river. We would like to expand the areas which are under open spaces, gardens and playgrounds. So those plans have to be taken up in the land use plan of the city as a whole, and of course have to be reflected in the smart city plan also. And when we do the modern area development within the smart cities plan, in fact, a lot of emphasis has been put on the open spaces development. So once that happens in that model area, which is about 1,000 acres in area, it can be replicated across the city. Today our cities are very congested. We look at organizing things in a way that we really don't leave much space for public space and leisure, and where families can come and spend time. But that is the way in the future, and I think we have done a great job with our Pune development plan. I think that will show the way to a lot of other cities in the country.
It's very interesting. All three of our developer panelists, Mr. Hiranandani, Mr. Anand, and Sangeeta from Mahindra Life Spaces, all of these companies build townships and they build what is mini cities. And I want each of you to share with us right now the one key learning that you think will help anybody looking at a smart city from an urban planning point of view, including Kunal who's on the panel. Mr. Hiranandani, from your experience in Powai and now in Thane, going forward in Pune as well, tell us that one thing that you believe makes a city, and we have about 5 minutes left on the show, one thing that you believe makes a city going forward that all of the municipal commissioners, all 20 municipal commissioners should take into cognizance.
I think most of these townships should be holistic. What you mentioned about open spaces, we need to look about that, but you can't make only buildings residential or only commercial or only manufacturing. You need to really do a holistic townships. We do schools, we do colleges, we do hospitals, we do malls, we do multiplexes. Make at least 30% of our land is full of gardens. We make old age homes, we made malls and all these other things. So you really need to think of holistic concepts, but the most important of all, when you do development in peripheral areas, the idea of doing only residential is really a no-no. I think you need to look at commercial and economic drivers along with all residential areas. This will reduce the travel time and will encourage more and more economic development along with the models. I think that mixed use township is the model.
Mixed use township, social infrastructure and economic drivers. Gitambar Anand, what is the key learning that you've picked up from building townships that you think we can all benefit from?
Well, all that Niranjan has said, absolutely I agree with, but one more thing I'd like to add: any development that any developer does, be it a township or any other, it must have a soul. Now, how to get a soul over there? Basically, my thought on this is that when we develop, the development should be such that we feel that if we were to live here, it's going to be a wonderful place to live in. So it has to be very, very realistic, very beautiful. It shouldn't be plasticky. It should have a soul. And once a city has a soul, people are attracted to come there. I for one, believe very strongly in effective design, where there is some thought to good spaces, and of course flora and fauna is very, very important to us. Landscaping is very important to us. Of course, all the infrastructure and all the different kinds of developments like that Niranjan has mentioned, I totally, like I said, I agree with. But for me, the most important thing is that the city, the development should have a soul.
Should have a soul. Alright, I want to bring in Sangeeta. Sangeeta, one thing that has not come up that I want you to talk about is sustainability. We're in a world right now where climate change is affecting all of us, especially those of us who live in Chennai have felt it. And I think that if we're building homes for every Indian, housing for all in the next 7 or 8 years, if we're building smart cities across this country, and we don't do it in a sustainable manner, we're walking into a situation of climate change that cannot be reversed. How important is it for all of these smart cities to put sustainability right on top?
I think the issue of sustainability is starting at the vision stage itself. The way we pay the landowners for the land, to the way we design the master plan at the beginning. And I would like to bring one more point here, that when we design a master plan on a vision, while we all believe that it will come true in the long run, we need to be flexible because citizens' expectations do change as we go along. So keeping that is very important as a core area of economic and environmental sustainability. And I think the smart cities do have an opportunity, whether it is mass rapid transport system, whether it is waste management, using renewables in all this, whether it is solar or wind. Start bottom up and using all of this. We have learnt it the hard way that when you do your master planning and designing, featuring in all the utilities in a smart and sustainable manner is very key. So I'll give you an example. Like in Chennai, what we have initiated is a project of biogas, which is to take the sewage from the sewage treatment, convert it into biogas as an alternate fuel for the internal shuttle. And that kind of enunciates the point that if I have to create a smart city which has livelihood, living and life, which is a cornerstone of a city, it needs to have sustainability features bunked in from the beginning. And whichever smart city is starting now, I would advise that start from the beginning, because we are already too late in that journey.
Alright, we've run out of time on this show, but remember, we're going to be tracking the Smart City project very, very closely on this channel, on Magic Picks. Now, I'd like to thank all of our panelists, Niranjan Hiranandani, Gitambar Anand, and Sunita. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. Kunal Kumar, congratulations on the big win for Pune. We wish you good luck and we give you all the support you need for the city of Pune going forward to become smart. If you have questions for any of our panelists, and if you have suggestions for the Pune Municipal Commissioner or any other city that's on the Smart City list, feel free to write to us. Our contact details are on your screen right now. You can reach me personally on Twitter. It will be my pleasure to hear from you as a viewer. Thank you so much for watching. Stay with Magic Picks now for more news and updates.